So hello and welcome to everybody that's joined us on this Wednesday afternoon. Really nice to have you with us. I see some familiar names. Great to have you with us again. A little bit more research and so forth. For those of you like Jerome that have been around for a long time, and we won't let them know what your age is, Jerome. But lovely to have you with us, Jerome, and then one or two other people that brand new names, don't know these names. So I just want to say thank you and thanks for joining us. What I'm going to be doing is we're going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation, and that PowerPoint presentation will be able to provide you with a lot more information and give me some guidance as we go along the process so that I don't waffle too much. I have a tendency to waffle, which is fine. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So that's the first thing. The first thing is welcome, welkom vir diegene wat Afrikaans sprekend is. As jy enige vrae het in Afrikaans wat jy op die einde wil vra, heeltemal in die hak. And then if you just happen to be watching the video and this is the first time you're getting to know us, please note that we'll give you some contact details right at the end, and you can gladly contact us and we'll have a one-on-one session with you via Zoom or WhatsApp or something like that. First, we need to say, I'm not a lawyer. And this information that we're going to be sharing today is, in fact, just educational research information. It's not legal advice. I have a background in law enforcement, but I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a BA, LLB, or BProc or anything like that. And if you need legal advice, you need to go straight to the legal professionals. So I'll tell you a little bit about the organization. Penny and myself, Penny's my wife, my business partner. This is a family business. We started the organization back in 2012 as a result of the fact that I set up a training company called INTRA after a number of years at NOSA. And Penny and I were just talking about this health and safety training company in the sense that it was a lot of work. It was before the digital age. You couldn't do research as you do now. And I found myself in a situation where I was making lots of mistakes. So the decision between Penny and myself was, let's help others get their business set up and help them become profitable and help them do in-house training if that's the case. We're members of SIOSH and IOSH. IOSH is the International Occupational Safety and Health Organization. And we're members of APID, which is a local professional body looking after trainers in South Africa. The team is a lot bigger, obviously, than us. And these are just some of the front people, and I'll introduce Natalie to you, or she'll introduce herself in a moment. But there's myself, and there's Penny, and there's Natalie, and there's a lady by the name of Erna. She's our debtors and creditors clerk. The gent with the checkered shirt is our attorney. The lady with the pink top heads up our course development section. She's brilliant. Her name is Deline. The good-looking guy there with the glasses and the black shirt. We all like these black shirts as we go along. His name is Gavin. He's our accountant, the gent with the grey shirt. He looks after our e-learning platform, the one with the very beachy looking shirt. His name is Dirk, and he runs Semantica, which is our digital platform. And then the young man with the dark shirt and again, another dark shirt. His name is Shane, and he looks after our website and all the other bits and pieces. So at this stage, I'm going to ask Natalie just to quickly introduce herself, tell you a little bit about herself, and then we're going to get straight into the presentation. Over to you, Nats.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie and I'm the CRM manager. So I'm usually your first point of contact on your journey to becoming a licensee. I'm here to help you with any of your initial questions, queries, any documents that you need. I'm your go-to, and it's great to have you with us today.
Absolutely. Natalie will be literally your go-to person. She'll be able to provide you with tons of information digitally. She'll email it to you, and as a result of that, she'll set up meetings and things of that nature. So that's great. Fantastic. Back to the presentation. Now you know a little bit about us, and then I must say that we have a number of other people that work with us as freelance people. We've not put them on the screen because they're not all that prominent in the organization, as and when we need them. So we've surrounded ourselves with people that are knowledgeable, people that are capable, people that can provide answers. We don't have all the answers, and we're certainly not perfect by any means, but at least we have some of the answers. And as a result of my exposure, I went from being a policeman into the Navy, into the Marines, into security, into NOSA. And from NOSA, I started the training company, INTRA. And from there, we started INTRA, which is the company that we now represent. INTRA, as I mentioned, helps people set up their own health and safety training companies. So that's a little bit of a journey. And then from there, we say, great, where to from here? What else can we do? And I'm going to say to you that the where and what do we do, I'm going to outline in the presentation. I think I need to kick off by saying that there are millions of people in South Africa that need occupational health and safety training. Currently, I just had a look at it online this morning. There's about 16.9 million employees in South Africa, most of whom all fall under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And as you know, the Occupational Health and Safety Act demands training. We also know that there's millions of people that are unemployed that should, in fact, be able to get employment if they're properly trained. And therein lies the problem. The problem is that we're just not getting around to training all these people. And it's 8.5 million unemployed, 17 million people that are employed but desperately need occupational health and safety training. Now, I want to just quickly reach out and talk to you about the international perspective. We see from the International Labour Organization that most of the injuries and diseases in the workplace where people die are actually and fall into the category of diseases. Now, that's interesting. Diseases and not injuries. And if you look at some of the stats there, hopefully you can see them. You'll see that our big problem in South Africa is as well, not just occupational safety. That's less of a problem than the occupational diseases. And these are diseases that you get at home and nobody records them, and they never go into stats or anything like that, because it might be that a person in retirement dies of a disease that they picked up at work. Alrighty. Now, we know there's this old saying that goes back decades, and it says common sense is not common. And we know as well that if you look around at the health and safety world, wow, there is this lack of common sense. I was out this morning. I went to quickly just popped down to the old house that we were in, and there were some cyclists on the road. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, look at these guys. There they were, a whole bunch of cyclists. This is not a pic of them, but they were wearing black. Now, black is camouflage. Black is not a high visibility color. Black is just the outfit. Black helmet, black bicycle, black kit on a black road, sometimes in the dark, in the forest or something like that. That's not clever. So where's the common sense there? And when we interviewed as what would happen after an incident on the roads with the cyclists, the driver would say, I didn't see them. Of course, because they were in black. Would you send your child out on the road wearing black? No. You want to make sure that the drivers and the traffic on the road see the kid. So, where's the common sense? And now, especially with the Argus Cycle Tour coming up, I'm urging people, do not cycle in black. Do not run in black. Do not walk in black on the road. Wear high visibility clothing, because that's the purpose. Now, this goes not just beyond me being an activist and a propagationist of high-vis. Penny and I have done a number of these Argus Cycle Tours. They're now called the Cape Town Cycle Tour. I think we've done 4 so far. We signed up for 5, but one was literally blown out. And we belong to an organization called the Professional Pedal Power Association. And they have this ethos. The ethos is wear high vis. And we've done that all along. And wherever we go, we encourage people. Now, I'm going to say to you, it's up to you. Common sense is up to you. Now, what do we do about that? Because you're going to come across countless people that are just not applying themselves in the marketplace or in the workplace. Now, we've set together in place a business, which we call a licensing business, and I'll describe it just now, and I will give you an indication as to how it works. But everything that I say to you today, or almost everything I say, is in a document called the prospectus. And by now you should have received the prospectus. If you haven't received it yet, you just drop a line to Natalie, or you can go onto our website and say, request more information. That allows you to get this prospectus document, to print it, to highlight the questions. Then we can set up a question and answer session afterwards. If you happen to have an attorney or an accountant, please, may I suggest that you ask them to read it as well and just highlight any things that they feel might be a concern. Okay, let's talk about the Occupational Health and Safety Act. We know that it came out, firstly it was the Factories Act, then it became the Machinery and Occupational Safety Act, and then they brought out the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, it talks about the employer's duties, which are in Section 8. And it says the following, amongst a whole bunch of other things. It says that the employer must establish the hazards and the precautionary measures. And slightly further down, it says the employer shall provide information, instructions, training, and supervision. I'm sure you know this. If you don't, learn it by heart. This is a critical section in the legislation and the whole approach to occupational health and safety. Now, there are three words at the bottom: inform, instruct, and train. Those three words are different. They aren't the same thing. And they are all a legal requirement. And having said that, you do know, of course, that the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the OHSA, is criminal legislation, and there are penalties. And some of those penalties are either fines and or imprisonment. Okay, not want to scare you with the legislation, but I do want to say this. Then it carries on in section 13, and it says the employer shall cause every employee to be made conversant. With what? With the hazards as well as the precautions. So if one asks the question, what am I supposed to do? Well, what hazards exist in the workplace? And then address those hazards. That's just common sense. And the question is, who must do the training? It says that the employer must do the training, or the employer must cause every employee to be made conversant. Interesting word, conversant. So the employer must do it, or the employer must engage somebody like a training provider and or a training official within the organization to do the training. So there we go, straightforward. Now, what kind of dangers and hazards and risks are present in the workplace? I've got a short list over here. The list actually goes into over 100. Didn't have enough space on the screen. But just have a look at some of those dangers, hazards, and risks. And the employer is supposed to identify whether they exist within the workplace and then provide information, instruction, and training. Now, there's another word that was on that section 8. It says, and supervision. Okay, so having said that, let's just move on. So what have we done? We then looked at the low-hanging fruit, the simple courses, the easy ones to, if I may say this, to sell, and the easy ones to present. And we put training material together, and we've got 26 different training packages, training course materials with facilitator guides and learner guides and PowerPoints and things like that. And they fall into those categories because these are some of the dangers and hazards and risks that will occur in the workplace. And we've recently added number 24, which is stacking and storage. And our intention is to grow this list to at least 50. We would like at least to be able to address at least 50 dangers, hazards, and risks. Now, you'll see that the word hazard comes up in section 8, but the word danger and hazard and risk are all clearly defined in the Occupational Health and Safety. So Stack Track is the stacking and storage program. And for those of you that know the legislation will know that it comes up in General Safety Regulation 8, and it comes up in the construction regulations, stacking and storage. And we've got all of these programs listed in our catalog. And in the catalog, you will not only get the list, but you'll also get a course content sheet. And that course content sheet will give you an idea of what's in the program. So if you would like the catalog, just give Natalie a call, or you can send Natalie a WhatsApp. Now, I mentioned to you that it is criminal legislation. And I want to point out, when you look at the legislation, that it's not just the employer or the supervisor who could land up in trouble. If you're thinking of becoming a training provider, then please consider this, that you could fall into that category as well, because it says any person. Now, that's just a little bit of a heads up and saying we're dealing with criminal legislation here. We need to make sure that we as individuals, that employers don't go to court and employees don't go to hospital. That's the objective. That's our ethos, to keep them out of court and keep them out of hospital. And if we don't, and in fact, if there is an infringement, it starts off in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, or OHSA, with a 50,000 Rand fine. And we see with this new amendment bill that is hovering around and has been hovering for some time, that the fine goes up to 5 million Rand. Okay, so they're taking it seriously. Why? The reason is that the incident rate in South Africa is not decreasing because a lot of employers, unfortunately, do not apply the legislation in their workplace, and certainly a lot of employees do not follow the requirements, those precautionary measures and so forth. So then it comes up to the question of training. And we ask the question, what kind of training? And you've got two types of training that we see clearly in South Africa. There's legal compliance training, and then there is credit-bearing training. And legal compliance training, as it says, identify the dangers, hazards, and risks. That's legal compliance. And if those risks exist, train the people, inform the people, instruct the people. Then we move on to what I'm sure many of you are familiar with is accredited training or credit-bearing training, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And that's a different kettle of fish. Same topic, but now it's a different outcome. So I'll talk about that. If you are interested in becoming a health and safety trainer and running an internal training department or running health and safety internally, you may find yourself in a situation where it's confusing because the terminology is just that. I obviously engage, Penny and Natalie and I engage with people all the time. And my gosh, there is a lack of understanding of what these different things are, such as what's accredited training? What's agreed upon training, and where does that come up? What is aligned training? What is approved training? What is certified training? And it is a little confusing because they're different and they apply to different people and organizations. What is competency-based training? What is compliance training? What is registered training? What is verified training? What is licensed training? Good grief, it's really quite confusing. So we find that a lot of employers are just not familiar with what this is all about. And in many instances, they walk away. And in walking away, they lose out both in terms of the protections of the Act, and there are protections in the Act, as well as all the opportunities that can be had, such as regaining or recovering their skills development levy and so forth. So the question would then be of you, do you want to do training in-house, where you work for an organization, you want to add health and safety training there, or maybe you want to bring training in because it's going to be more cost effective, or would you like to become a training provider where you go out to those clients and you do training for them? And that's completely up to you, and then we'll help you make that decision and provide you with some guidance. If it's in-house, there are a couple of really good reasons why you'd want to do it in-house. There's financial and compliance and customization and efficiency and knowledge, where if you run these programs in-house, you will save yourself a lot of money. If, however, you decide that you want to become a training provider and you want to set up your own business, it's essentially what we will help you with. Now, we don't do it all for you. For instance, we don't register your PTY Limited, but you're going to need a PTY Limited when it comes to accreditation. And these are some of the elements that will guide you through to make sure that you've got it in place. And then once you've got your company registered and you go for your accreditation, and once you've got your accreditation, you can start marketing, and we'll help you with that. So I hope this makes sense to you. And it really is a matter of starting up your own business. I, for many, many years, ran the business by the seat of my pants. I didn't come out of an environment where I was taught how to run a small business. My mom and dad weren't business people. It was literally a matter of, let's see what we can make happen. And thank you, Lord, it happened. So we're really grateful. Okay, so our recommendation to you is you'd like to possibly become an INTRA training provider, whether in-house or as a commercial training provider where you go out. And to become a provider, we have a business model. This business model is very similar to a franchise. We call it a license in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, and it comprises of these different elements. There are different license options. There's an onboarding session and an orientation session. Then we have training material orientation, and we've got a lot of training material, and I'll talk to you about that as well. There's the 26 that we touched on just now. We have an e-learning platform. We have SACWA unit standard aligned training material, which, by the way, you may or may not know that a lot of the unit standards were cancelled. Some of them have been extended, but there is a limited lifespan now. It's about 7 months to go before all the unit standards are completely annihilated, gone, cancelled. But we'll tell you about that and how to work around that. Then we also have ongoing education of our licensees, as we call them. We help them with their QCTO accreditation if they've got the right license model. And then lastly, we have a networking opportunity of note, where you can network with other people who will be able to collaborate with you and assist you. So here are the licenses. There's Platinum, there's Prime Plus, there's Basic, and there's Starter. So let me just quickly give you an indication as to what these are, and then we'll get into some more detail. Platinum is for corporates. So if you're a multi-branch organization or you have thousands of employees, and we have countries such as Liberia and Ghana and countries, Burkina Faso, where we have licensees. One is in the UAE. That's a platinum. They've got thousands of people. Then the prime is probably the most appropriate license, and the prime license comes with tuition so that you can get your own accreditation. However, if that's too much for you, we do have a plus factor where we have people that will help you with accreditation with prime. Then basic, and with basic, there is no QCTO accreditation information or material. It's a kind of a second step up. And then, of course, the basics are a follow-on of the starter license. We'll provide you with more information. Right now, I want to tell you what this is going to cost, so that as we go through the presentation, you go, oh, okay, I can go for this, or I can go for that, or this is within my budget, and I'll need to raise the funds for this. So let's quickly start with Platinum. Platinum starts at 105,000 Rand, and this course, there's terms and conditions and things like that. And we have an annual license fee, which is an upgrade license fee. Then from Platinum, we have a license called Prime, and that's 49,500. And that's our primary one. I mean, it really is our best of all the licenses because it encompasses everything. Now, it has a monthly license fee of 1,500 Rand, important to note. Then, as I mentioned, if you want somebody to hold your hand to get the accreditation, we've got Prime Plus, which you can see is considerably more because there are other professionals involved there. Then we have Basic, which is 29,500. And that prospectus document will tell you everything about it. That one also has a monthly license fee. We have a starter package. We'll give you the details of that and tell you what you get in the starter package. That's 15,500 Rand and a monthly license fee of 500. But as we're going through the presentation, you'd say, maybe you say, right, none of this is for me just yet. I just want to get some of that training material. And the training material that it's literally 2,995 Rand, including that, or 2,604 Rand, excluding that. Now, people have said to me, oh, wow, yeah, that's quite expensive. And the answer is, what, to buy a franchise? To buy a license? And if you had to go and buy a license from anything else, there's a trailer hire company that has a franchise, and it starts at 3 million. So you can see this fits very, very well into the budget of most people. However, talk to us about it and what your resources are and what your timelines are. Important to note that the licenses that we have here are transferable, and any of the expenses incurred as a result of setting up this business, that's tax deductible. So, good one, let's move on. Once you're a licensee, we'll give you the necessary support, and we'll do that to the best of our ability. Firstly, we have an onboarding session that's followed by an orientation session that's followed by mentoring. And this morning I spent probably a half an hour or so mentoring one of our licensees. He was uncertain about something, and I was able to shortcut for him so he didn't have to do too much research. Now, we have an operations manual, and you'll get a copy of the operations manual as a licensee. And when you come to the orientation session, we deal with the issues in the manual. And in that orientation session, we'll be talking about sales and marketing and advertising. We'll be talking about the latest changes to the Occupational Health and Safety Act and or regulations. We'll be talking about the transition from the CETA to the QCTO and so forth. Hope this makes sense. Then, to keep people orientated, we have an ongoing program of online webinars, Zoom sessions, where we interview various people or bring topics to the fore, and those topics are available on our YouTube channel. In fact, this young man that I was chatting to this morning, he's going to be running an environmental awareness program, and I pointed him to our YouTube channel, on which there are 5 different videos on EnviroTrack. That's what the course is called, and it's sort of do it yourself. And if you happen to have a staff member that's going to be doing training with you or for you, you can say to them, you do the training yourself, so you don't have to sit there and train them. Okay, then to support you yet further, we're going to suggest that every single licensee goes through all 18 of our e-learning programs. Currently 18, we're working on bringing a couple more on board now, and it means that in your own time, at your own pace, you're able to do your own homework. And I'll give you a simple example. If you look on that list there, the 4th one down there is ErgoTrack, which is the ergonomics regulation. Now, in all my years at NOSA and then later on running a training company, ergonomics was in the background. We knew about it, we didn't do anything about it. It's as simple as that. Then they brought out in 2020, they brought out the ergonomics regulation, and the ergonomics regulation is quite specific. Do you know that that regulation, in my opinion, it's a brilliant regulation. It talks about training between 8 to 10 times. 8 to 10 times. So if you're going to go into the marketplace as a trainer or you're going to go within your organization, so we need to do ergonomics training. It's critical. There's the regulation, we've got the training material, and in the training material, we've got facilitator guide, learner guide, PowerPoints. We have all of this material that you can get up and running. And to get your head around what ergonomics is all about, we suggest watch the video and so forth. Then unpack the training material. Then watch not just our video, but other videos as well that we may recommend that you work through. Okay, enough on that. I mentioned to you that there is a networking opportunity, and that networking opportunity is brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. We've got over 100 registered paid-up licensees in Africa from the UAE right down, I often joke about, I say from Dubai to Durbanville, and you can then liaise with them. So let me give you a simple example. Let's say you happen to be in Brakpan, and you get a client who inquires and says, please, can you do some training in Velkom? And the answer is, oh, I don't want to drive or fly there. It's going to be an expensive exercise. I need to make money here. But you then put word out to existing licensees, and we'll help you with that, and say, is there anybody in Kimberley or Welkom or Bloemfontein that can do this training for me? And you collaborate with them. We don't take any of that money. That is between you and them. It's sort of a collaboration in the true sense of the word. Now, I mentioned that we've got lots more training material. So remember I said there's 26, and I said the latest one is the stack track. Stacking and storage. Now, we do have another 40 programs, that's 40 programs that were previously unit standard aligned training material. If you know anything about this transition from SACWA to QCTO, or from CETA to QCTO, you'll know that what they've done is they've cancelled all, and when I say they, let me give them a name. The Department of Employment and Labour cancelled all the unit standards, all 11,000 unit standards. And then, of course, there was an outcry, needless to say. And then the Department of Employment and Labour brought some of the unit standards back. But now that doesn't affect the course content. So the actual training material itself you can use. You can run a training program with this training material. It just doesn't mean that you can issue credits. And it doesn't mean that you can register the person on the National Learner Registration Database. So with that in mind, that's 25 or 26 plus 40, that's 66 courses. We're not done yet. Now, I'm going to ask Natalie just to talk a little bit about that, but to help you understand who she is and what her role is, other than what she does for our organization. Natalie's got a degree from UCT in media. She's worked for a number of major advertising agencies in the social media section and department, had some very, very big clients that she worked with. And graciously, thank you, Natalie, she's agreed to help our licensees at basic and prime level to set up all of this online marketing stuff. Natalie, over to you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so what's included in the basic and prime license is what's called an online presence setup. So it's just getting you visible on a couple of platforms that have a really big monopoly in the digital space. And so I just go through the process of getting all of those bits and pieces in place for you. And I also give you a whole rollout plan of how you can get going with your digital marketing. And I give you some tips, an orientation video on how you can get started. So there is a lot of support initially as we set you up and on your way.
Fantastic. Natalie, do you build websites?
No, don't build websites, but we do refer to our preferred service suppliers for that.
Great. So what I want you to think about if you're considering becoming a licensee is, where do I go for all this advice and assistance? Well, as far as the writing or training material is concerned, we do that. Or we'll buy it and bring it on board if it's relevant. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, professional advice, legal advice. We've got people that we collaborate with and associate with, and that you could collaborate and associate with. What do we do in terms of setting up like a network of people? We've got a network of people. Then you can plug into that. And then, of course, Natalie's services are really, really valuable. She has helped our organization enormously. Big tick to you, Nats. Just absolutely big tick. Helped us hugely. We had a meeting yesterday with our Catherine, thank you so much. I'll come to you in a moment. We had a meeting with our digital marketing agency, and Natalie works very, very closely with them. And I walked away going, wow, things change. And what I learned in social media 5 years ago has all changed now. Okay, enough of that. Let me get back to the presentation. Catherine, I'll come to you in a moment. Okay, there we go. So, Catherine, can I just ask you to ask your question? Go right ahead. Or if you wish, Catherine, just hold your questions to the end and I'll come back to you and we will take your questions once we switch the recording off. So let's just move on. Okay, now let's talk about this whole thing about accreditation and approval and registration and certification and verification and all of those words, that myriad of words in the health and safety training or the QCTO lexicon. You do know, of course, that there is some training that has to be approved by the Department of Employment and Labor and some training that the regulations require that it be accredited. I'll give you a little insight into that, and we'll definitely be able to help you with all of that. So the first question is, when must training be accredited? Well, if you look at the regulation, there's something like 22, 23 regulations. You'll see some of them, not all of them, some of them have a definition of competency. And that's important. Understanding what the law says about competency, first and foremost. Now, it's quite interesting if you look at this Sacrosita NQF story, that they talk a lot about competency, but competency comes out of the law. The basis of all of this is competency. It's not a SACWA word. It is now, they've hijacked it, but competency is a legal term. And the law does require competency, starting with these regulations. There's the general safety regulation, the driven machinery regulation, the construction regulation, the ergonomics regulation, and the physical agents regulation. Now we see competency coming up in the others: asbestos, explosives, commercial diving, hazardous biological agents, and hazardous chemical agents, and the major hazard installation. And what the law says is that you, the employer, must have somebody who's competent. So now you, the training provider, can become accredited so that you, the training provider, can actually provide competency-based training to your employer and or to your clients. Once again, I said, I love this legislation. I love the fact that the law says training, 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 training. And that works very well for me. Okay, so what happens is if you happen to be a prime or a platinum, there is an option for you to get accreditation guidance. And that's run by Penny. Penny used to be a teacher, and she runs these sessions on a monthly basis. And you then attend the session, you or anybody on your staff, attend the session to learn how to do your own accreditation. We have a thing called the AccrediKit, which is a Google Drive full of documents that the QCTO is going to ask for when you go for your accreditation. The workshop is run monthly. It's recorded, so you can go back and see it again and again and again. And then there is a process where you do your own application. Now, that sounds a little strange. Why would you do it if there's somebody else like a consultant to do it? Well, for one, the QCTO does not favor the use of consultants and agents. The QCTO wants to deal with you, the business owner. Important to note. Secondly, the consultants and agents, and we got our accreditation through the consultant. It's expensive. It really is expensive. You could pay for another 40,000 Rand just for accreditation. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I do want to say this. If you know how to do it, great. That means that you can do every single one of your own applications yourself, you or somebody in your department or your admin department. And it's important to know that QCTO has changed the rules as far as the CETA accreditation used to go. CETA used to say, fine, you can get 10, 20, 30 courses accredited in one sitting, one go. Now QCTO says you need new accreditation for every 5. So you get 5 in the first lot, and then you've got to go for accreditation again for the next 5, and the next 5, and the next 5. And every single time you do that, it's time, effort, energy, money, brain time, and stuff like that. And of course, you need the training material. So the first thing that we recommend that you do is get your accreditation for first aid, because it's in place. The QCTO has dealt with it. You can go to the website. You can see that it's already registered, and they have 3 first aid courses, the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced first aid courses, which replace the old level 1, 2, and 3. Now we've got that material, and when you become a licensee, you get that as well. So you get the 26 legal compliance courses, you get the 40 unit standard aligned courses, and then you get 3 skills programs specifically for first aid. And there they are. Those programs are ready. They've been used. We have countless people in our organization that have, when I say countless, it's probably about 3 dozen, that have already acquired their QCTO first aid accreditation. So maybe this is something you want to do, but I would go as far as saying is do it. Do it, because it establishes you in the marketplace as an accredited organization. Okay, when it comes to the guidance, Penny will talk you through the material. We've got the material professionally developed. QCTO likes it. The verifiers come along and they like it. She will talk you through this. It's called a site visit, where there is an individual will come down and look at your training room and your training facilities and so forth. She will talk you through the documentation, the reporting systems in terms of who the registering systems in terms of who's attending the course, and then the reporting systems in terms of who's completed the course. So it's like a fast track to get yourself up and running without an enormous amount of self-investigation and research. Okay, from there, we know that the QCTO is writing, they call them curriculum or codes, and they've written those 5. We're now just waiting for the final publication. So those courses, that's sort of legal compliance and health and safety, HIRA, hazard identification and risk assessment, they've been approved. We've got the curriculum, and the moment they publish them on the website, then we will take the existing training material that we've got, the 26, we'll convert it and make sure that it lines up with the QCTO requirements. So that's part of the role that we'll play. Now, they have published and told us that there are 4 other programs coming. Is it not published? Let me just go back. They have told us, they've announced it's 4, but we don't know which. So we're waiting. And it's a bit of a wait and see. But we'll get there. I'm sure of that. Okay. So I recommend it to you that you become an INTRA training provider. There's so much more that I can share with you, and time doesn't allow it, because I'd like to see if we can get some questions in and that we can meet you and you can meet us. And that's the recommendation. The recommendation is get the prospectus, print it, go through it with a highlighter, draw up a list of questions, chat to Natalie so she can set up a one-on-one question and answer session, either with you and or your partners and or your management team. And you will then have an opportunity of going, right, I'm ready. Now, those different licenses, we said at the bottom was starter, then there's basic, then there is prime, then prime plus, and then platinum. Those are the licenses. So if you want, you can just WhatsApp Natalie on 082 499 6911. That's 082 499 6911. And just WhatsApp her the word quote. And she'll send you a no obligation quote so that you know and have it in writing what you're in for if you're going to be investing in a business of this nature. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to open up for question time. And I trust there are some questions and I'll be able to answer the questions that were asked previously. Okay, so let's do the stop share and stop the recording.